Welcome back to the Hound Strings podcast. My name is Alex and this is episode 8. For all of my new viewers, as always, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for clicking on me and checking out the show. This is a podcast about knitting, crochet, other crafty goodness. From time to time we have music. And it's about fun things in life in general. And honestly, with everything that's going on right now, who couldn't use a little extra goodness in their lives? For those of you who are returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. Whether you're new or returning, if you haven't already and you are considering subscribing, click below. I'd love to have you, and of course, if you click on the little bell icon, you will be the first to know when a new episode comes up. All right, we've got a lot in store for you today. First off, though, I do want to address the elephant in the room. It's not just in the room, it's all over the place, and that is coronavirus. I know this has been hitting a lot of us extremely hard, to say the absolute least. I feel very fortunate that my personal life hasn't been too turned upside down, but I know that that's not the case for everybody. So I just want to say, if you are being affected, my prayers are with you, sending good vibes out there. If there's anything that I can do, even if it's just something, if you just need to talk to somebody, please let me know, and I'll be an ear to listen to you. That started to not make sense. But you got a shoulder to cry on virtually, 6 feet away or more. And if there's something else that you need, I will see what I can do to help you. But with that, let's get going. I know you're here for a good time, for some enjoyment, so let's get started. I've got some finished objects, one big one and a bunch of littles, which I'm really happy. And I've got a handful of works in progress and some future knitting that I would like to tell you about. So let's get cracking. In past episodes, I've started with a cup of tea. Instead of tea, I've been in the hot chocolate mood. And I'm enjoying this in my fabulous Berlin cup. Excuse me. And that's to kind of commemorate the fact that this time last year I was in Germany, visiting with Jessie of the Two Sticks and Strings podcast. And speaking of social media, all that good stuff, before I forget, you can find me on Instagram as handmade_hound. That's hand, M-A-D-E. You can also find me on Ravelry as Alex Handmade, and that's all one word. And then, of course, here on YouTube as the Hound Strings podcast. And then I'm going to take a sip, but first, we're going to make a toast in German. And instead of saying cheers, you say Prost. And when you're making a toast, especially if you're using Prost or Gesundheit, that's another one. You want to make sure that you're making direct eye contact. That's really important. Just to show it off one more time, you'll see it again as I sip through the episode. And granted, I did not get that on my trip. That was actually from Christmas 2018. Alrighty, let's get started. We'll start with my first finished object, which I am wearing right now. And this is the Stormy Skies shawl. Here it is in all its stripy glory. And this is by Life. The pattern is by Life is Cozy. It is a free pattern on Ravelry, and not only can you find it, not only is it free, but there's a knit version and a crochet version, so you can enjoy this beautiful piece of fluffiness and warmth, no matter what your preferred crafting style is. So that is fantastic. And for this one, I used a bulky yarn. This is Marble Chunky by James C. Brett in the Sandpiper colorway. And then next finished objects, I've got a bunch of littles that I've really enjoyed making. As part of a spring cleaning thing, I decided to go through some of my cotton yarns, and this is just like dishcloth cotton, nothing special or fancy. And I made some little dishcloths and scrubbies. So I love these. So the first one I made is this beauty here. I love the way the kind of lacy or the eyelet pattern came out. I think it's a little easier to see on not quite such a busy yarn color, but oh my gosh, this was so much fun. And these are very addictive. They're like eating potato chips, honestly. And then I'm looking for my little scrap paper that had the names. Here it is. And so this pattern is the almost lost dishcloth. I dare you to say that 5 times fast. And that pattern is by Julie Tarsha. Wow. That was really a struggle. Oh my gosh. So anyway, how is that again? That is the Almost Lost Dishcloth by Julie Tarsha. And she has 2 versions. There is the standard size, which is about as big as my face. And there's also the mini version, which is the size of the palm of my hand. All right, so that is another set of finished objects. A couple more dishcloths. Oh, I did a mini version in this pretty color. I don't know the name of this colorway, what brand it is. It's probably Sugar and Cream or Peaches and Cream, who knows. But I thought that was cute with the speckles. Reminds me of Funfetti cake. And then I did another dishcloth. This one is part of the Dishcloth Duo by Knitability. I think there's a specific designer. Wow, I'm on a roll today, guys. Wow. Anyway, where was I? So I think there's a specific designer listed on Ravelry. However, I was not able to pull it up in a timely manner to get this uploaded, but I will post that in the captions. But I did the big dishcloth that's in the pattern. And ooh, I like the way it pulls on the camera. Wow, this is really cool. you know, you don't get to appreciate the pooling when it's right in front of you, because when it's up close, it's like, oh yeah. But when it's this far away, it's really neat. I like it. And again, this is more kind of leftovers. Some that I think this might have come in a basket that I was given. That is the larger washcloth, and then the little mini scrubber. This is so cute. I love this. First off, it looks like a little pinwheel, or even a one of those Starlight mints, you know, the swirly mints. This would be really cute in a red and white combination. They would look like little peppermints. But I used one of these, made a couple of these, and I used one over my weekend. I decided to treat myself to a little home facial, and I just used this to scrub off the mask before I rinsed. But I love it. I love the texture. I love the pattern. It was a lot of fun. It's free, and I love it. And you know what's fun is if you had some yarn that was a little bit more high end, but you wanted to do a scrappy pattern or a scrappy project, you could probably turn these into so a bunch of these together and make a quilt of some kind, instead of doing hexie puffs. Just a thought, because I really like the way it comes out. Then I did another one in that that confetti color. This one's, the stitch definition isn't quite as there, but then again, I did use this one recently. It's clean, but it's still damp. And those, my friends, are all my finished objects. All right, so let's see what I'm working on. What I'm working on now. I do have one project that I started back in February, but kind of put on hold for right now, just because it wasn't what my heart was in the mood for at the time. And then I've got two others. So I'll start with the first one, kind of chronological order. So with this, I started these, I think, just after Valentine's Day. A pair of toe-up socks. And the colors I'm using right now are by Arkansas Yarn Company. And Jesse will probably recognize this one. The colorway for the main color is Cindy Lou Who. And the toe, the contrasting color is called Pink Jammies. And these are a sparkle base. I adjusted my lamp, so hopefully you can kind of pick up the sparkle. Maybe, maybe not. Yeah, there we go. A little bit right down here. So again, I started these on Valentine's Day. At the time, I'm like, oh, you know, even though it's a Christmas colorway, it's still appropriate for Valentine's, with the pink, the red, the general cutesiness of it. Then as I was working on it, I was like, you know, I'm going to set these aside. My soul is craving different colors right now. So these will be continued at a different point. I do have another pair of socks on the needles, on a different pair of needles right now, so you will see those momentarily. But I figured I might as well kind of share my general sock formula, because I know everybody is different, and I'm also open to trying different things. But for right now, I do my socks toe up, and I do Judy's Magic Cast On. With this pair, I did 14 stitches, increased to 30 per needle, so grand total of 60 stitches per round. And these are my Haya Sharps, US size 1.5. That is 2.5 millimeters, I believe. Let's see, it's on there. Yeah, 2.5 millimeters. And I did have, for those of you who have watched back episodes, you'll know that is not my general formula. I did have to change that because I tried on the socks that you saw last episode. And granted, they were shorty socks, so they're gonna fit somewhat differently from regular crew length or taller or like mid-calf socks. With the shorty socks, they felt like they were flopping around on my feet. It felt like my feet were swimming in the socks. And that was not a comfortable feeling. So I figured I might need to do some adjusting. So I did adjust my formula for the size needle, which is what I used for the last pair. And by the way, those I will frog and redo at some other point in time. And then for the socks that I'm currently working on, I did switch back to the old formula, but different size needles. So I'm going to see if going down a gauge helps, or going down a needle size. I promise I know what I'm talking about, guys. But anyway, we've got a lot of progress on this thing. So figured, oops, hey, getting all tangled. So I might as well share the colorway. This is Desert Vista Dye Works in the I Love Lucy colorway. And it is a self-striping, and with this one you really get to see the sparkles. This is the ZN base, and boy howdy, she is really generous on those sparkles. The lighting's ever so slightly off. Oh, there we go. You can kind of see it. Yeah, this is really sparkly, which I love that. And I am past the heel. I am working on the leg. And for the heel, toes pretty much the same. I did my old formula, again, just going down needle size. So starting with 16 stitches on each needle for the toe, using Judy's Magic Cast On, increasing to 32 stitches. But I did change something, so I'm going to get up a little closer here. So what I did was, starting at about where the ball of my foot would be, it's right here on the underside. So this is the plantar side of my foot, which is the underside, the side that you plant your feet. So on the plantar side, I started doing a ribbing. So I did 3 stitches on either side, purl, and then knit 4, purl 1 all the way to the end, and then again that other side 3 stitches, knit the remaining 3. So I started that. The front side I did plain until I got about to the arch, and that's when I started doing that that rib pattern all the way around. And I had tried it on as I went, and it feels really good, at least to my feet. I like having that nice snug feeling on my foot. And then for the heel, I love my Fish Lips Kiss. I will say that I do want to try the Rose City Rollers, which that is a free pattern. I'll have to put the designer name, but that one calls for a heel flap and gusset. So anyway, kind of experimenting with new formulas here for my socks. When I got just past the heel, or just before the heel, so about a ½ inch before doing the heel, I went back to just plain knitting. And then the rest is just plain knitting all the way around, at least until I get to the cuff. So that is whip number 2. And whip number 3, which I'm loving so far, is my Land and Sea cardigan. This pattern is by Andrea Yetman, and it's a free pattern on the Biscotti website, but there is a link to that on Ravelry. So I'll show you what I have so far. Oh no, I dropped stitches, dang it. Just pick those up real quick, or at least salvage what I can. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Hold up, guys. There we go. I mean, they're not perfectly picked up, but it's good enough for right now. There we go. So this is what I have at this point. And this one's interesting because it's worked in reverse stockinette rather than normal. So the right side is, for the unfamiliar, the right side is actually the bumpy side. So this is, again, what I have. I know I've been kind of shaking around a little bit, trying to get a grip on things. So I'm starting the fade into the third color. So from the top down, I have Beach Sweets. That's a colorway by Candy Skein. It's the Yummy Fingering Base. And then that fades into the Glowing Sea by Bayou City Yarn Company. And then the next colorway I have, you can't really see it, so I will dig out the skeins. The next colorway is Days at the Beach by Honey Girl Farms. I'll dig out the other 2 skeins so you can see those. Here we go. So here's Beach Sweets all caked up. Glowing Sea all caked up. And you saw this one just a moment ago. Honey Girl Farms. Ooh, that's so pretty. I love that. And then I do have 2 other colors that will be faded into next. So the next colorway will be Ba La Jolla in Under the Sea, da 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 da, Under the Sea, da 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 da. I'm sorry, that never gets old to me, so deal with it. I kid. So that's going to be the next color. This was a Christmas gift from Jessie. And then the last one will be Destination Yarns in their Passport base, which is their fingering. And the colorway is called La Jolla Sunset. Now 3 of these are particularly special to me because because they were exclusives from the yarn over truck for the San Diego Yarn Crawl. So it was Beach Sweets, which was from 2016, I believe. And then I think it was 16, 17. No. Hold on, I can't think of what year this one was. I want to say this was actually 2017's color. Then this one was 2018, and then this one was this past year's 2019's. I love the fact that they are all beach inspired, ocean inspired, and then having these two in the mix just was the icing on the cake. And given my new location in Oceanside, I figured how perfect of a project for these beautiful, beautiful yarns. So I cannot wait to continue working on this and to see how this grows. Just one last look for good measure. And this is my first time doing raglan increases, and I really like the way it's looking. Really like how easy this is so far. All right, that's what I have on the needles as far as future projects. I have so many. At first I was like, I don't know where to begin, but that would be fun to show off what I'm most excited for right now. So I'll be right back. I'm just going to grab that from my basket. There we go. Alrighty, so one of the things that I have planned is I want to do a magpie tendency with my last beachy yarn. This is Golden Pearls. You probably recognize this from a certain episode last year. And the colorway is called Right Here on the Boardwalk. And this one is very special to me. And I figured that the colorway, this color just needs to stand on its own. So what better project than a magpie tendency? And then I will have the, I think it's Skinanigans that does that one, but I will have the correct designer in a caption below. Then the other project that I'm most excited about, I will be using these lovelies. So these will become a Polyphemus pullover. That design is by Sheila Toy Stromberg. And that one is a paid for pattern on Ravelry, as is Magpie Tendencies. And Polyphemus is a beautiful, beautiful fade. And I will be using Elevate Fibers. This is the deluxe sock base in Bluff Point. It's got some beautiful pink, peachy speckles, or not just speckles, they're more kind of pops of color. And then lovely green speckles. There's like one random bright teal speckle in here that I just love. Just really like that one. And then I will also be using Candy Skein Eggnog. And this is the Yummy Fingering. This was an exclusive colorway for their their monthly limited editions, and this was from the holiday season of 2018. And again, beautiful colors. It's got those warm, spicy, red, brownish pinks, and that nice sunny creamy yellow. Mixing up my words again. And oh, I love it. And then I'll eventually fade that into Lavender Latte. Again, this is by Candy Skein. And as far as the order, I did have an order in mind in which I wanted to fade this, but I can't remember if it was going to be Candy Skein then Elevate or the other way around. Anyway, and then for the contrasting hem and sleeves, I have Lichen and Lace, and this colorway is called Linen. And this is their 80-20 sock, which is 20% nylon, 80% superwash merino. Kind of your typical sock blend. And then while I have this basket out, I've got another fade that I'm gonna do. Not sure what I'm gonna make, but might as well show off the pretty yarns. Have a couple of yarns by Olan, hand dyed in Ireland. And then this colorway is, I don't remember what this colorway is called, but it is absolutely beautiful. Middle of Nowhere, there it is. I knew it would occur to me. The colorway is called Middle of Nowhere. And oh my goodness, those brights with the foresty tonal green. Oh, then we have another Elevate. And this one is the Radiant Sock, which is a sparkle base. Let's see. Oh yeah, now you can see the sparkle. And this one's interesting in that the stellina is actually in the plies rather than spun into the fiber itself. But yeah, that one you can really see the sparkle. Holy moly. And then Olan again, but this one is called Alchemy. And it's kind of the, it's very similar to Middle of Nowhere, except it's a white base, but it still has those same foresty greens and bright neon speckled in. So pretty. Love it, I love it, I love it. I do have much more than that lined up as far as projects, but I figured that's what I'd show off for right now. Okie doke. Trying to think of what's next. I do have a little bit of music progress, so I figured this would be a good time for me to take a little pause, kind of clear my brain, because this has been a very rambly episode today. Then I'll be back with a little bit of music and then some other podcasty things and live chatter. So we'll see you soon. Alrighty guys, I am back with the harp. Figured since I don't have anything for tools and tricks of the trade or any other craft related content, I figured this would be a good time to show you what I've been practicing with this. Especially given the fact that I actually have been practicing with this thing for the first time in what feels like ages. So I also figured while I was taking a break and getting it tuned up, I need to put one of my baskets away. So while I'm doing that, I'll keep chatting away with you guys. But anyway, while I was tuning up, I thought that would be a good time to make a cup of tea. I'll share what I'm sipping with you guys before I start. Here we go. So I've got a different mug this time. Cute little birdie mug from Taylor's mom. Got that for Christmas this year. And I'm sipping a tea called Evening in Missoula. This is from one of my favorite tea purveyors, Old Town Spice and Tea Merchants. They're based in Temecula. And this one is an herbal blend. It's got all different kinds of things, but I really enjoy the flavor. It's a little hot right now. I'll see if I can sip it. It's got spearmint, chamomile, has a little bit of a vanilla taste in the background. Let's see, what does it have? Has chamomile, rose hips, raspberry leaf, papaya leaf, spearmint, peppermint, blackberry leaf, vanilla, passion flower, red clover, star anise, wild cherry bark, lemon peel, wintergreen, lavender. So yeah, it's quite the concoction, but I really enjoy that one. Can't wait till this whole COVID-19 thing is over. That way I can stock up on it. I've still got quite a bit left of it, but I really enjoy having it. And one more sip for the road. Alrighty, so in the past month or two since I last saw you guys, I've had some opportunity to practice and get a little something under my belt. So to start out, I'll show you what I've been working from. You probably remember this from a prior episode, but this is Teach Yourself to Play the Folk Harp by Sylvia Woods. And it's a wonderful little lesson book. It goes over pretty much everything from how to read music. So I love the fact that it doesn't assume that you already know how to read music. So it goes over that. It starts nice and easy with the treble clef, one-hand pieces, and then eventually you go into two-hand pieces, and then it introduces the bass clef, and so on and so forth. I really love the way these lessons progress. So show you what I've been working on. Let's see. Here we go. So to warm up, I start with some of my favorite pieces from lesson 1. This is a favorite of mine called Country Gardens. And I'm going to start with the left hand just because that's something that, as I've been practicing, as I've been teaching myself to play the folk harp, I've kind of learned that if I start with my non-dominant hand, it just seems to make things less frustrating than if I were to start with my right hand, my dominant hand, have things sound really great, and then go to my left hand and then all of a sudden it sucks. I've noticed that it's a lot less frustrating, so a little tip for you. If you're having trouble, with a piece, or if you're like, oh, how do I make this a less frustrating experience, really make sure that your left hand game or your non-dominant hand is solid on what it's doing. And then do your dominant hand. I know a lot of lesson programs for music will go, oh, start with your right hand. Well, if you're a lefty, then my theory is just spot on. But if you're a right hand dominant person, then it's like, oh, that kind of poo-poos that. But anyway, here is Country Gardens with the left hand. Let's see. This is my first time sitting down to this today, so we'll see how. Whoa. Yeah. So again, it's still going to be frustrating, but I think not as frustrating as it would be if I were to start with the right hand and be like, oh, this is great, I'm making such good progress. And then to be kind of go, yeah, no, with the left hand. But here's what it's supposed to sound like. So at least you get to hear what it's supposed to sound like on the right hand. But that's one of the pieces. That one's from lesson 2. Yeah, lesson 2. Another favorite of mine is The Water is Wide. And this one sounds really pretty on the lower strings. That one's really pretty. And I just realized that it's a little bit harder to see what my left hand was doing. There we go. Hopefully that'll be a little bit better. So yeah, so essentially I just run from lesson 1 to lesson 2, because lesson 3 introduces both the right and left hand. And the past couple of months I didn't practice lesson 3 because I had a little accident in the kitchen and I sliced open one of my right fingers. So there was that. So most of my practice was, again, left hand, non-dominant. So that was interesting. Then lesson 4 introduces melodies with harmonies. So that's been fun. One of the ones in there that I love just from having heard it before is All Through the Night, also known as Archidenos. Just make sure that my fingers are placed correctly. Oop, I did not place correctly. There we go. Again, still some bumps in the road, but I really enjoy that piece. It's definitely got that beautiful lullaby quality. It's very simple, but it's still, you know, once you get both hands involved with melodies and harmonies, it is pretty impressive. That's when you start to get that, oh yeah, I've got that. Oh yeah, I can do this. This is great. Granted, it is easy to get a little cocky, but I digress. So that's one of the pieces. Lesson 5 is kind of a continuation on Lesson 4. It just introduces the bass clef. And this is where I've stopped so far. This is a piece called Planks du George Brabazon. And this one, I'm still kind of tricky, but slowly but surely I'm getting the hang of it. So let's see what I've got so far. Kind of focus there a little bit because some of the fingering just gets a little wonky, and you know, with the part where at the beginning where I go where it goes da, 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 da. In the second part, it goes. See, it skips directly to. So it kind of takes you a little bit out of the routine that you've established. So there are definitely a lot of parts where I have to slow down and really pay attention. So something that I'm working on right now at this point with this piece is making sure I slow the rest of the piece down to match the speed where it's a little bit more difficult, just to make everything more cohesive and fluid. So that's what I've got for music. Just to wrap this segment up, I'll just, there's another piece that I enjoy. It's one of my warm-up pieces. And this one, I will admit that I skipped all the way to lesson 10 for this one, just because the melody was simple and it introduced chords for the left hand. This one is an adaptation from the New World Symphony, that first movement by Antonin Dvorak. Again, another part where I have to slow down. I thought that would be a nice one to finish up the musical segment. I know you guys have heard it before, but I just really enjoy that one. And again, that's another one where I do have to slow down, just because, that that part is just so much fun to play that I find myself playing it too quickly. Yeah, that's what I've got for music. So that was nice to, that was nice to have something to share after such a long dry spell. As far as other podcasty things, let's see, don't have too much to share right now. I will do one podcast shout out, just because she's kind of fresh in my mind. Actually, two. First off is the Ruby and Roses podcast. I'm blanking out on this young lady's name, but she is such a delight to watch, and she's, I think, 16. She's, I think, the youngest I've seen doing a podcast. Technically, she's still a minor, but anyway, I say if that's something that she likes to do, and honestly, she's very good at it, so more power to her. And not only does she podcast and make absolutely beautiful projects, she's also an indie dyer. So definitely check her out. Check out her podcast. Also, as of late, I had been enjoying snippets of Chemnits with Rebecca. And the first time I had been introduced to the Chemnits podcast, it was last year when I was visiting Jess. She surprised me with a home yarn dyeing project, and we used Easter egg tabs. And we made some hand-dyed yarn, and we used some of her tutorials, which they're really cool. And she does other dyeing experiments. Let's see, for Valentine's Day this year, she did, or maybe was it this year or a different year? Anyway, who knows? Doesn't really matter at this point, but one year for Valentine's Day, she did yarn dyed with crushed up candy hearts, which that was pretty interesting. And again, they're all kind of experimental. There's one where she laid, I think she might have done a sock blank. Now, don't quote me on this. I guess you'll just have to check her out and subscribe to her. Anyway, where I was going with this was, I think in one of those experiments, she takes some of the big conversation hearts and lays them out on a sock blank to soak up the dye. And I think with those, it took up more of the dye than the, excuse me one second, I noted. Sorry, I see a mosquito. There we go, just had to get rid of that nasty little booger, because mosquitoes find me very tasty. All right, anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, so I was talking about Chemnits. I was talking about one of the experiments. So with the soft blank and the candy hearts, that one actually came out a little bit more intensely colored than the one where she crushed up the smaller candy hearts. Granted, they are pastel colors. There's not a lot of dye in those candies to begin with, but it was still a really cool experiment. Then again, all of hers are really awesome. So yeah, that's what I've been watching as far as podcasts. And as I record more podcasts and watch more podcasts, I'll be sure to mention some others that I've been enjoying too. Alrighty, as far as life in general, it seems like a lot has happened, and at the same time, nothing has happened. It's definitely a weird paradox. I know a lot of people are being very heavily impacted by the coronavirus, whether it's related to their health or the way careers and livelihoods are affected. So that being said, like I mentioned before, if you need anything, if there's anything that I can do, please let me know. Even if it's just you need an ear to talk to, I'm here for you. As far as my life in general, not too much of my daily routine has been disturbed, which I'm very grateful for. I'm not taking that for granted in the least. As far as day-to-day operations at work, things have changed, but my normal routine hasn't changed too much. I'm very grateful that I am still able to go to work, to work with the animals, and all of that. On happier notes, I started a garden. Started probably, I want to say late February. I've got all different things growing on my little back patio, or on my, not back patio, it's the only patio, but on my patio behind me. Think I'll, in the morning, because it is late at night, in the morning I'll try and get some photos of some of the things that I've been growing. I did have some basil that was really thriving until the snails just ate it down to nothing, which that was disappointing, especially because I grew them from itty bitty baby seeds. Like, they were seeds that I planted and sowed by hand. So that was a very tough pill to swallow. But That's the way it works sometimes. Nature is a cruel beast. But I'm growing chamomile. Granted, flowers haven't started blooming yet, but the plant itself looks nice and happy. I've got sage. I've got some lettuce and arugula seedlings that are popping up. So, yay! I'm really excited. This is the first time I've done exclusively container gardening. When I was still living with my parents, there were some herbs and other plants that I started from seeds, but they eventually were transplanted into my mom's garden in actual dirt in the ground. So if you have any tips for a novice green thumb, especially, specifically for container gardening, let me know, because I'd love any advice that I can get on anything. I don't have anything specific that, well, actually, with advice for culinary plants, so fruits, veggies, herbs, things like that. But that's a happier thing that I have going on right now, because I think we all need to look at something fun. Let's see. My grandpa recently moved in with my mom and dad. He was living in Wisconsin. He's lived in Wisconsin pretty much his whole life. But as of late, the winters have just been getting really difficult. He's had some health things going on. But I got to see him for the first time in ages yesterday. And he's quite the character. He's he's like your stereotypical crotchety old man. He's definitely kind of an Archie Bunker type. If you don't know who that is, it's from an old TV show called All in the Family, so look him up. And he doesn't exactly have much of a filter, so so yeah, that's something that's going on right now. Also, my birthday's coming up. Not really sure what I'm gonna do. It's actually on Saturday. So I'm gonna play it by ear. It's funny, Taylor asked what I wanted for my birthday. I haven't really thought about what I wanted for my birthday. I don't know what to tell him. At this point, I've just said, oh, gee, babe, I don't know what I want for my birthday, which that's a fat load of help. But yeah, at this point, I just haven't really given it much thought. Oh well, there are bigger fish to fry at this point. And at this point, that's all I have to share. Thank you so much for joining me on my ramblings of spring. And I will see you next time. And hopefully it won't be quite so long in between recording sessions. Anyway, guys, take care. Thanks again for joining me. Stay safe, and I will see you next time. Bye.